don't need a purchased gift box, coiled or bound planner setup system with boxes and pages to fill out in order to help you reach your goals. What you need is a simple, flexible system that can be molded to meet your unique needs and help you work on your goals even when you're not feeling well, you're deterred by other people coming at you with things, or the weather is conspiring against you. I'm going to tell you what that kind of system needs in order for you to get the results that you want. We'll cover how to start a system like that, what to build into it, and how to tweak it as you move forward with it. Start small. And when I say small, I mean when it comes to the goals and the habits themselves. I know, especially if we're used to these goal setting systems, it starts with a vision. We want big, big things. And the bigger things you set, the harder it is to scale that back to start with something really small. But if you're trying to build this execution habit, you're trying to build this execution muscle, it's a great idea to just start small and build your system while you build your habits. Think of these first goals, if you haven't been successful with them in the past, as kind of starter goals where you're working on your system as much as you're working on the goals themselves. James Clear, if you do 1% better every day for a year, you're going to be 37 times better. Well, you got to start getting better. Maybe start with 1 or 2 habit goals in a couple different areas. And if you start with more than 1 or more than 2, just be willing to scale back. Start small when it comes to time frame. People traditionally set annual goals, and now it's been all the rage to do quarterly goals, which really comes from business. And as an individual, are quarters really important to you? They don't work for me. Even quarters are too long for me to plan as far as personal planning goes. What I have found has worked for me is, at the very max, is to go what I call seasonally, but it's really, I have 6 seasons a year for 2-month seasons. And again, even 2 months is a long time if you're not like in a groove meeting your goals or, accomplishing your goals. So I'm going to say start with a week or 2, or start with a month. Don't start with a quarter or a year if you don't have a history of being consistent with following through with your goals. That way you're not locking yourself up and feeling like you got to start that whole process over again. So for me, I'm doing the 2-month goals, so to speak, or I don't even like to call them goals, focuses. But I don't track them for that whole time. I find even when I was making a month-long tracker, the way I decided to deal with it would evolve over time. And so I found it better to just, I'm making my kind of how I'm addressing my goals on a weekly basis. And it just changes and evolves each week. Build in flexibility. And when I say flexibility, I mean pre-think about obstacles that you might encounter. You've probably at least tried to accomplish some goals in the past. What has gotten in your way? Has it been other people's priorities? That's my thing. People ask me to do things and I say yes, 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 and then my things don't get done. Is it a chronic illness? Is it lack of time, or you're not finding the right time? Just think about what your obstacles have been. I threw in the beginning of this, I think, a weather clip, right? For me, gardening goals or fitness goals, I have moved to the Pacific Northwest where it is the land of rain. Used to be I'd have to do things before 9 a.m. in order for it not to be 100 degrees. And now I can't do some things until like 2 in the afternoon. If I need to mow the grass, you can't mow the grass before 2 p.m. because it's still wet, even in May. If you have goals to eat better, is it social engagements? Is it family? Think about what is getting in your way that way. If you're trying to read more, is it your phone, distractions with social media, or just what is the thing that is preventing you in the past? Another flexible thing is, how are you going to react when the day blows up? You need to pre-think that, right? When you planned to do this and this and this today and something drops in your lap, then what are you going to do with those things you had planned? Are there some that are non-negotiable for the day and you say, well, yes, all this other stuff has come up, but I had planned to do these 3 things, I'm going to do 1 instead? Or are you going to say, oh, I can take everything this day and just move it to another day? Can you anticipate when those days might get thrown off, or is it just totally up in there? Think about it ahead of time. What has happened to you in the past, and try to predict it and have a plan thought out to avoid those same things in the future. Another way to build in flexibility is with like kind of menu choices. There's been a big thing, a lot of videos on a dopamine menu for different things. I've seen menu as far as like a routine menu where, if you're trying, some of your habits are building a morning routine, maybe you're not going to do all 10 things every day, but maybe you're going to do one of these 2 or 3 things and one of these 2 or 3 things and one of these 2 or 3 things. So are there things where, especially if your time ends up, sometimes you have more time and sometimes you have less time, maybe have that prioritized list where I'm always going to do these 3, but then, I work my way down this list as time allows. Or for me, it's often when I get a late start because something came up in the morning and I still want to get some of that morning routine or that workday startup routine done, what are the things that I can cut off? What are the negotiable things that they're nice to haves, not need to haves? A big help for me in this is in the full focus planner, there's a weekly big 3 and then a daily big 3. You've already pre-planned what are the most important things this week, what are the most important things this day. And so it helps you when you have to make a choice, what needs to go, you've already said what's important. Another thing you need to build in is some reflection time. At a minimum, you want to build it in weekly, but depending on if time allows and your level of frustration with things and, just personality type, maybe you want to reflect every couple days. I wouldn't set the goal of daily, and I definitely would not set something dated to do this, because if you set something dated, and then you skip a day, then maybe you're going to be deflated over that. At least weekly, if not more often, you need to reflect on, okay, these were the things I said were important. This is what I've gotten done. This is what I didn't get done, and this is why. The weekly preview and the full focus planner is a good guide, even if you're not using it in print. There's a place to start with your wins for the week, reflect on your weekly big 3, what percentage, or not necessarily numerical, but how far did you get on each of those things for your weekly big 3, what worked for you during the week and what didn't. Now, I'm a big fan, as I've said, of doing this just in a spiral notebook or journal or something where you have more space. You might think, well, I'd rather have a limited space because then I won't be as overwhelmed. I feel like anxious having that limited space because then I'm gonna run out of room to write what I really want to write. So think about which one of those people you are. There are both kinds of people. Neither one is right. It's what's going to work for you. But I do encourage weekly review, weekly reset, weekly whatever. Some kind of reflection is going to be really important. And so you want to think about questions that will help you with how is your system going, not just how are your goals going. So you want to reflect on those goals, but you also want to reflect on the system as you're building the system. I do a reset each week. It's usually Sunday. Sometimes it gets pushed to Monday. I might not do all the components, but I always do, what's in that left side of the full focus planner. Even if if I do it on notebook paper, a minimum I'll do is 1 page that basically mimics that page. It doesn't have to be a big production. Do something weekly. Iterate, don't obliterate. I know it's kind of cheesy, but you will not be perfect. You will not be perfect at this. I am a recovering perfectionist. I have stories I could tell you. You've got to get out of that 100% or 0 thinking, that black and white thinking. Everything is a continuum. So during your weekly reflection, you really need to be gentle with yourself, but you do also need to be honest. Some methods will talk about scoring as a way to determine where you are and how you're doing. That just really does not work for me. It just totally shuts me down. I just don't even open the book anymore. So I have realized that doesn't work for me. Simple checklists where I know like what percentage of things I need to check, that works pretty well for me. Just straight out journaling, that works pretty well for me too. Some of the things that I can do quantifiably, numerically, retired math teacher, love that. but I know the scoring thing, that just does not work. So these videos on goal setting and even just all the productivity stuff, I want everything in one video. I just want to tell you all the stuff that's in my head, and I want to hear what's in your head, and I want to hear your experiences, and I want to tell you my experiences. But I can't. And so I always feel in these videos that besides the fact that I need to tell you my like pedigree of what I've read and who I've studied and what have you, go through the list, Getting Things Done, David Allen, Atomic Habits, James Clear. Besides all going through all those things, I also feel like you're going to pick out one little video and say, well, you're only talking about habits. What about these big goals? And so here's this laundry list that I'm going to roll on the screen of things that you might be complaining about. Well, you didn't say this and you didn't include that. And what about this? And this doesn't work for me. So I'm giving you this list. Get into the comments. Tell me what you think about this list, and which one of these things would you like to hear next? Which one of these things, can you relate to? I want you to know these are in my head, and I know these are valid questions. So this is the kind of videos you can expect to come. I also want to say I'm giving these tips on building a system, and I know it's not telling you exactly how to build the system, but I do not know exactly what will work for you. I'm trying to tell you things that have worked for me and what a lot of the experts have said. But what worked for me 5 years ago does not work for me now. What worked for me when I was working full time, sometimes a couple jobs, had a larger house, had, people doing things for me, some jobs delegated, in a land of sun and relentless high temperatures, moving to a small house on the Oregon coast where our temperatures between 40 and 60 almost all year long, but there's lots of rain, which I love, and it's wonderful. And being retired, so I have more time, but the flexibility is a blessing or a curse. All these things, this is me. Now, you could go through your whole little laundry list of things like that too. I don't want to seem like an expert. I just want to tell you, I think this stuff is interesting. I think it's important. I think it's fun. And if you do too, I would love to have you give me some comments. What would you like to hear next? Let me know where you're at in this kind of a journey and what kind of things you've checked out before. And I will be doing more on this. Thanks for being here. Check over here for what I'm up to next. Or if I'm not up to anything else next, what the YouTube gods think are good for you. Take care.